Tracy Swedlow, and this is Televisionation. We have the wonderful, the experienced, the veteran of the TV industry, Gerrit Niemeijer, who is the CTO from Ampersand, which is Ampersand.tv. Welcome to the show, Gerrit.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course, for people who've been in this industry for a long time, they know that you've been around, you've worked and won Emmy Awards. We see your lovely trophy in the background when you were at Visible World with Seth Haberman.
That's right.
And with Walt Horseman, right?
That's
at Audience
Express. Audience Express.
Audience Express, that's right. Do you still see Walt occasionally?
Yeah, I still see him occasionally, yeah. When I'm in the city, but not anymore.
But, you guys, and of course with you and Seth at Visible World, all of you were really pioneering all of this work with advertising and data and analyzing what was possible and delivering campaigns. And so now you're at Ampersand and the CTO there. So there's a lot of exciting work being done. And I know you guys just recently announced some news, but you have... there's so much going on, but, we're trying to deliver to all types of platform technology, right? And Ampersand delivers to?
We deliver to television on whatever screen you may consume it. Because Ampersand previously, as you know, was called NCC Media and started 25 years ago representing then linear inventory, because that's all the local cable linear inventory, because that's all there was. And one of the things that I think is sort of relevant in today's age is that the reason why we started doing that is because way back when, and I believe it started even in Chicago, way back when there were thousands of cable companies. There was not the consolidation that we have now with the big, MVPDs. But there were thousands of little cable companies, and so and they offered also advertising services, and they had some great capabilities that the national broadcasters and the national cable networks didn't have, such as targeting and interactivity, etc. But the problem was, even if you wanted to run a campaign in Chicago, you had to go and call up like 25 different cable companies, cobble them together. They all had different ways of doing business. They all had slightly different formats. You had to send tapes with slightly different formats. So it was like really a pain to sort of construct a television campaign, even for Chicago, from all these little pieces. And so Ampersand, then NCC, started its business specifically to try to combine, to defragment all these pieces of inventory and offer it up as one market level buy. And yeah, that's where we traditionally were. And now we are kind of doing that again, but now across digital and addressable and linear TV, etc., streaming.
But did those departments go away in all those cable systems, or did you build relationships into those cable systems and then help them sort of straighten it out or make efficiencies, so that because you were providing that service? Like, what was the evolution of...
I think it was a combination of both. The departments didn't go away, but a lot of the cable companies, tiny cable companies, got combined into bigger cable companies, and who then streamlined their operation and made it all look the same. But still, there's multiple cable companies. In any given market, you sometimes have to deal, especially if you also include satellite and Verizon Fios, for example, there's still multiple people that you have to deal with. So it's a combination of consolidation that happened, but also us working with our inventory partners to streamline the process more.
So now Ampersand is delivering advertising to linear, to streaming, and online, correct?
Yes.
All in this, and I'm assuming you have a dashboard where you can see all these things behaving.
Yeah.
And and I know your AND platform is fairly new. I mean, can you talk a little bit about what makes the AND platform, powerful, other than over your competitors? What's your secret sauce?
Our secret sauce. So we have We announced our AND platform last year, and I think the secret sauce is a combination of scale of inventory, because we can reach every DMA, local cable inventory in every DMA in the United States. Mm-hmm. So we have access to all that inventory, and we have the corresponding addressable inventory that comes with it, and VOD and digital, online, streaming, etc. Data, so we have audience data from our owners that we have access to.
Yes.
So that's a data set that's 38 million plus homes, and that's authenticated data. So that's very different than I would say other platforms where digital platforms, the data is not really authenticated. Sometimes there's modeling that takes place. This is really, you can match this against CRM files.
But
this is
it's
really
anonymized, right? Because the cable guys aren't really supposed to distribute that to third parties, no. Or how? I mean, that's all anonymized.
That's all anonymized. So we don't have any access to PII information, but through blind matching, trusted blind matching, we can match it against all the segmentation we ever need. So it's all
authenticated data.
It's authenticated data. The cable companies do the authentication. We don't. We don't have PII information, but we can use, through a match, we can use segmentation against it. And automation, frankly, a way to sort of roll up. Just like I said, when we started in Chicago, I wasn't involved in that, but when we started in Chicago, what we did is we defragmented basically the inventory. We made many little pieces look as one. And so that's what we're doing again. So it's automation and defragmentation, so to speak.
Have you created your own tagging system? I'm not quite sure what to call that, but how do you bring how do you streamline how that campaign is performing across all of these places? Because all of those platforms out there, there is no consistent way to track advertising. It's still in a jumble, right? There's no efficient tagging system. So how do you control that?
Well, so we work with our inventory partners. So we're owned by Comcast, Charter, and Cox, and so we started representing and selling their inventory, but we also sell inventory outside of that footprint. Mm-hmm. And so we work with them and make sure that the campaigns that we run, we get enough data back with tags in it that we can map, and so we can actually provide holistic dashboards to show reach and frequency, for example. Yeah, so that's how we solve that.
Okay, well, I mean, as the CTO, I know that's sort of your job to figure all that stuff out. So I'm just wondering how all that works. It's challenging. So what is the edge for this platform right now? Where do you want to push it? Do you have a product roadmap you can hint to right now?
Yeah, we have a very detailed product roadmap. I would say, before I answer that question, I would say a little bit of the context around that. So we think that television is historically television is a very powerful medium, and it is a powerful medium because it has immense reach. Back in the good old days, when you had only 4 broadcast networks, you could run a commercial on 3 or 4 of these shows, and you would have reached practically everybody in the United States, and simultaneously. It's also brand safe content, it's trusted content, so it's a really great medium. It has been a really great medium. Today, what we see is a lot of fragmentation, because we see people still consuming linear TV. That's still a big sort of, block of inventory or viewership. But we also see streaming, we see connected TV, we see over the top, we see VOD. So there's all these different screens now where all of that gets consumed, but it's still the same content. And so our sort of idea is that television should be defined by the content and the way you interact with that content, not per se by what screen you actually do that on. So for us, television, it's still television if you watch your television content on your iPad, because it's still the same.
I agree with you.
And so our thinking is that what we want to do and what our platform therefore supports, and it's really the sort of the thing behind our platform, is we want to deliver audiences cross-screen, independent of where they are, where they move to. We want to deliver audiences, and that's what our platform ultimately does.
Are you delving into the attribution business as well, or do you partner with third parties to deliver that important information?
Yeah, that's a good question. We think that attribution is, first of all, it's an important part of our platform, whether or not we partner with others to sort of do that for us, or with us or not. So it's definitely a part of the offering that we have. We think that there's certain places where I don't think there's a single answer to do we do that ourselves or do we partner with somebody. In certain cases, we're simply in a really good position to do that.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Okay.
In certain cases, we're in a really good position to do that. For example, and we should also say that attribution there's no single sort of thing for attribution. It can be different by vertical, or so that there's probably a portfolio of attribution solutions that you want.
Right.
Because there's just simply different methods. There's methods for measuring web traffic. There's measures for measuring individual sales transactions, if that's possible. So we do both. The short answer to your question is there's certain areas where we feel we can do that. We should offer that ourselves. For example, for M&E, so for tune-ins, we can, since we have access to all the data already, we can show, hey, if people saw this promo for a certain show, we can actually easily see if they actually ended up watching that show or not. So that's kind of an attribution. Mm-hmm. But for other cases, automotive, in some cases, we have partnered, for example, with TV Squared to provide that as a service for us.
Joe Kinsella.
Yeah. So another thing is, in some cases, it's believable that we provide attribution services. In other cases, clients are just going to say, hey, but we trust the third party, and we'd like to do that third party, do the attribution for you. And that's fine too. We can integrate with them to do that too.
Are you, since you're able to deliver audiences, are you also delivering audiences from, let's say, YouTube and places like that?
Currently not. We do streaming. We have inventory that we represent there, but YouTube currently
not so much. And what about Peacock?
Well, Peacock is still in beta mode.
Since Comcast is one of your owners, I thought,
Yeah, today we're not, but it's also still in a pre-release version. I'm an Xfinity client. I have access to it. I don't think it's available to the general public.
You have access to it early?
If you are an Xfinity subscriber, if you're a Comcast subscriber, you actually have it. I saw it popping up a couple of weeks ago, so yeah, that's pretty exciting.
We have it here.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be delivering to Peacock in the future?
I don't know yet. That's more of a, I hope so.
And so what do you think you could be doing going forward now? Because every time we turn around every week, I think HBO Max is launching this week, right? Supposedly, it's already Tuesday. Will you be delivering to that environment? Oh, they're subscription oriented, so they don't have ads, right?
Yeah, that's probably not. But so they're not ad supported yet, or maybe forever, who knows? But so we would like, our philosophy is this. But in streaming, what's happening right now is there's a lot of fragmentation. I was at Streaming Media West, I think in Los Angeles last year, and I was sitting there listening to a panel, and they were representing different streaming companies, and they were all saying, hey, and they were specifically talking about the UIs and the features and the cool stuff that they're building into their players. And they were saying, hey, we need to really focus on building, they were literally saying we need to focus on building features into our players so that we're different than everybody else, which kind of makes sense if you're trying to build a business and get sold or whatever. But for a consumer, it's actually terrible, because now you have like 26 different players and they all have different features and they all work in a different way. That's not really what a consumer at the end of the day wants. If there is a good feature that they like, it should be as a consumer, I would like it to be available on all my streaming content, not just on one, because now I have to remember where to do what. So I don't think actually that's a great idea from a consumer perspective. It's also not a great idea from an advertising perspective, because now if I need to if I know that there's a lot of streaming viewing, but it's divided over all these players with their own content, I need to sort of figure out how to run my commercials over all of them to get the audience that I want. And so I think from our perspective, the role we play historically, that's why I told you how we started in Chicago. It's almost like the history repeats itself, but now it's with streaming and all the different screens.
Right.
We are an aggregator. We can deliver audiences across all these different screens so that you don't have to worry about silos and all that kind of stuff.
So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, though. You must be collecting interesting data. We have reported a lot about how sports people are watching, other things, and people are watching more in family groups. And I know people are gravitating towards these AVOD services. But are there any other surprises you've seen? I mean, as every day goes by, I think people are getting perhaps busier and busier, or are they still watching more and more TV? I mean, are you seeing more people signing up for AVOD? And then is that your best experience delivering to AVOD platforms? Or so what are the trends that you're seeing right now?
A macro trend seems to be that viewing, both in TV viewing as well as in streaming viewing, went definitely up when this whole pandemic started. But that seems to be trending more back to normal now again. You only see trends over a long time, so you have to be always a little bit careful, but it seems to be arching back to the normal levels. Another interesting question in our world, of course, is, hey, there's no more sports. Sports was a big, had a big audience always, and so there's no more sports. So where did all these people go? Because from an advertiser perspective, from a brand perspective, you want to reach the audience. You don't per se have to care about whether or not you reach them while they're watching sports or they're watching something else. And so we've done a lot of work on that. And there is no single, it's not like, oh, all the people that watch sports, they all watch also this show. It all depends on what sports they were watching. And so it's not a simple answer, but through our platform and through the data we have access to, we can help, and we do help clients say, hey, I know you were advertising and you like to advertise because it worked for you on these sports events. Let us find places where the same viewers are there, but they're now just watching other stuff.
Are you?
So
no, go ahead.
No, that's a big thing. But if you think about it, when I said audience, we want to deliver audiences, that's already something we were doing prior to this virus, because we already think, hey, if you're running commercials in certain shows because you think that your audience is there, but there's so many other places and sometimes more efficient places where you can find that same audience. And the only way that you can cross screen, and the only way that you can do that is if you have access to data and know where these people are content-wise.
And just technically, like how much lag time is there for delivering stuff to all of these audiences and switching and managing and micromanaging? Is there any latency for this, or can these campaigns they just have to be set once and run, and then you just watch them? How much control do I have over that as someone who would place that campaign with you?
Well, digital, today there's still a lag time, and traditionally in television there's a big lag time because everything works with Nielsen data.
Huge.
So by the time you saw what happened, the campaign is already over. You spent your money, and it's almost not actionable. That's historically how TV works. Digital, of course, is different. Digital is more real time, and so we're working with our inventory partners to bring that lag time back through set-top box data, bring it in faster and faster overnight. So that we can now, it's not maybe on par with digital because digital is instantaneous, so maybe TV is overnight, but it's close enough so that you can start to manage things across screens, which is really cool because then we can start to think about things like frequency control, for example, where frequency, as you know, is a big deal for brands. They know they want their audience to see their messages, but they don't want to see them 100 times because that's actually counterproductive. That gets annoying. So they want to limit the amount of time. And there's always an ideal frequency. Maybe it's 4 times a week or something for automotive, for example. But in reality, they'll see content across screens. So they'll see maybe commercials on TV, but they'll also see them on streaming because they do both. And so what we kind of are working towards is an ability to say, hey, I know you saw it twice on TV, and now you saw it twice. You saw it one time on VOD, and you saw it one time on streaming. Now we're going to put some controls in place to do that. And that only works if the data is close to real time or daily. If the data doesn't show up until like a month later, it doesn't really work.
I know myself, when I notice ads right now, it's if they make them relevant to the times. There's so many ads out there today that, just seem like any other ad in a normal situation. And it's almost like you discount them. But anyway, I know you're not in charge of the quality of the content that comes in, the ads. But I'm kind of curious, are you seeing more effectiveness on linear platforms or on these streaming platforms? Because streaming is growing so much.
You mean effectiveness outside of the content of the ad?
Outside of in terms of how you're which audiences you're able to bring and who's responding and things like that.
I think it's. I'm not quite sure I have a good answer to that question. So TV is still is a very effective way to reach this audience because. You
mean linear?
Linear TV, yeah. But I think this. So first of all, this whole crisis is nobody knows exactly how we're going to come out of this. Like I think the world is probably going to be different. I think we kind of know that the world is going to be different. Our business is going to be different, but we don't precisely know how. We can make some educated guesses, but we don't quite understand why. One of the things we're seeing is that there's a lot of interest in more audience-based products versus the traditional sort of broadcast model. And so that's probably going to be one thing that comes out of it. And you can do that both in linear TV as well as obviously in addressable and in over the top and CTV. Another thing that, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but another thing that we believe is probably going to be true is that the country's probably going to, most likely what is going to happen is we're going to come out of this, we're going to start opening up, or we are already start opening up, but then we test and then we see if there's an outbreak again somewhere, we sort of maybe lock it down more again. And that's going to be not the same across the whole country. It's already different depending where you are. I'm in the New York area. It's much more tight here than maybe in other places. And so driven by that, we think also the advertising is going to have to be flexible. You don't turn something on for the whole country or down. It's probably, maybe you'll go up in certain areas that show more economic activity or rebound yet, and maybe not in other areas. And we think that we're in a really good position there because we think we're localized by definition. We do that every day. So whether we sell market by market, we don't sell like, you have to take the whole country or nothing. So that's probably another thing that's going to happen coming out of this.
And how is local advertising doing?
I think it all depends on the category. For the most part, advertising is of course affected by this, and it depends on the category. If you're in the travel category, there's not much. Why would you advertise? People.
I know though that you were talking about how things could be different and people will want more audience tools, or companies will want more audience tools. I fully expect ads to be delivered inside these Zoom experiences at some point, as a form of another platform or another streaming service that is where people are experiencing these conversations live. I'm sure that will come up and perhaps you'll deliver to that environment. That was just sort of an insight I thought I'd pass on to you, but
no,
what do you think of that? Do you think that's a crazy idea, or do you think All of
No,
your
I
live
think that,
streaming experiences connected and networked and, ready for an ad campaign?
no, I think there's many. I don't think there are crazy ideas at this moment because it's so unknown and it's so uncertain. I would pay for the ad-free version of Zoom, but that's basically what we're doing already.
How can
We're
you
paying
say
for
that? And you're in the ad business.
it. I wouldn't want it in my business calls, but there's all kinds of interesting things. Like I've seen people who would go to the movies together now can't go to the movies together anymore. So now they're watching, sort of try to synchronize their streaming activity. So they watch it maybe on Disney Plus or something like that, and then
It's actually, which is a little off topic, but what's interesting is I think movie theaters have organized their membership, if they have a membership, or reaching out to their customer base somehow and creating movie watching experiences. So it's like TV, movie, live streaming. It's a little off topic, but it's interesting. I think people want to be able to watch in groups or participate in something where they feel like there's a there there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's not everything is individual. That's a great example of where if theoretically you say, hey, you can just sit and go to your laptop or to your iPad or whatever, and you can see all the content you want. But there is a communal aspect to some of that viewing, like going to a movie cinema together, see a movie together. So there will be ways in which that will be now replicated in a different environment. So.
Well, back to you guys for a second, because I really didn't get to talk about a little piece of important news for you guys before we go, which is that you recently made a deal with Verizon Media, I believe, to be able to also deliver to Fios and to their internet ad marketplace. So that's probably big.
Yeah.
Development.
Yeah, and so for us, as I said before, we're trying to, at the end of the day, it's very simple for us. We're trying to deliver audiences across screens. And the more different silos of inventory we can combine together to just offer these audiences up, the better we are. And Verizon is a great example of that. We, as you said, we did an announcement 1 or 2 weeks ago to take their addressable inventory and make it part of our addressable pool of inventory. And so that's I think it's great for the industry, it's great for us, it's great for Verizon, and we're all very excited about that.
Well, it'll be really wonderful to hear some data, some observations about what's happening with Addressable, because it's still a growing delivery technology. And, I'd like to check back with you at some point when down the road, perhaps, to see
absolutely.
how this has gone.
I've been, in my previous life, I've been very involved in Addressable, and so it's close to my heart. And it's one of the areas where we believe, there's real growth and there's real opportunity. But again, it cannot be that Addressable works like this in Fios, it works slightly different in cable, it works slightly different maybe in another cable company, it works slightly different in satellite. For a brand or for an agency, it has to be a single sort of platform. So that's really what we're doing. Yeah,
they probably don't even really want to understand the technological differences between these things. They just want it delivered.
Exactly.
That's right. Exactly. Okay. Well, it sounds like we did a good catch up. I hope you're okay. Where are you located?
We're in New Jersey, Maplewood, New Jersey, close to New York City. So we've been in lockdown for a while.
Yes, I'm in San Francisco. I hear you on that. Well, I hope you and your family are healthy and everything's okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell everybody? How are you able to keep your hair nice and coiffed? Is someone cutting your hair for you?
No, I don't know.
It just doesn't grow that fast. Anyway,
it doesn't grow that fast, I guess.
I just have to cut my bangs like this sometimes. All right, well, thank you so much, Gerrit. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
And it's good to check in with you and say hi to everybody over there.
I will do that.
All right.
Stay healthy.
Gerrit Niemeijer is the CTO of Ampersand, Ampersand.tv, and just checking in to say hi. My name's Tracy Swedlow, of course. You didn't already know, and this is Televisionation. Free for you to call me. Take care. Thanks so much.